I've been sitting with Psalm 136 lately. It's one of those Psalms that's meant to be read responsively, like where a leader speaks a line and then the people respond with the same phrase over and over again. His faithful love endures forever. In the King James, you'll hear it, or in the ESV, his mercy endures forever, or his steadfast love. Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His faithful love endures forever. He alone does mighty miracles. His faithful love endures forever. He made the heavens. He placed the earth among the waters. He led his people out of Egypt. He split the Red Sea. He led them safely through the wilderness. He struck down mighty kings. And after every single act, that same line, that same refrain, his faithful love endures forever. And as I was reading it, I paused really I was like, wow, I just started looking at it and thinking, because that phrase, faithful love, is not sentimental. It's not casual. And the part that hit me the most was that it's not obligatory. The Hebrew word there is chesed. And I might not be saying that entirely right, so forgive me. But that's how I've heard it. And chesed doesn't mean love out of duty. It means loving kindness that goes beyond obligation. It's voluntary and personal. It's something you choose to do. And so God doesn't do these things because he has to. He does them because he wants to. And it's that distinction, that obligation versus desire, that's really just been working on me. I started asking myself some uncomfortable but honest questions. Like, I wrote them down. Do I read the Word of God because I should, or because I want to be with him? Do I obey because it's required, or because I trust his heart? And then, because this is the season of life I'm in, I started thinking about homeschool and motherhood. Because there's one calling, if there's one calling that can be heavy with obligation, it's this one. There are things that we do because we must. We must teach our kids how to read. We must teach math. We must explain the water cycle and history and grammar and spelling and dates and facts. And none of that's wrong, okay? I don't just hear my heart. None of that's wrong. It's all good. And it matters. But day after day, year after year in some cases, the doing can really turn into a grind. And I find myself just wondering how much of my life is driven by I have to, and how much is shaped by wisdom and love and actual intention. Because chesed isn't forced. That kind of loving kindness. This is what struck me about this Psalm 136. God's chesed, his loving kindness, it's not transactional. It's not reluctant. It's also not like the bare minimum of obedience. He doesn't rescue me or you or anyone because he's boxed in by his covenant language. He rescues because his heart is inclined toward his people. And that made me really think. It made me just ask myself, what would it look like if some parts of my life moved from obligation to intentional love? Not everything. I mean, we still live in the real world, but some things. What would I build if I had the margin to do it? Like the time margin, the brain capacity, not exhausted. What would I create if I had more clarity? What would I offer other people if wisdom and not pressure was leading me? Another word that stood out to me in Psalm 136 was forever. And that word doesn't mean this vague eternity. It means perpetual, continuing on. And that's where this ties into the Proverbs that I've been talking about and reading and studying for the last few weeks. Wisdom is not just about making it through the day. Sure, it does help us get through the day, but it's not just that. It's about building something that lasts. Proverbs talks constantly about legacy, about reputation, about direction, about teachability, about discernment. So that means that wisdom asks different questions than obligation. Obligation asks, what do I have to do today? Wisdom asks, what am I building over time? And that's a question that matters, especially for moms like us, like moms who are pouring ourselves out every single day. So this is where business enters the conversation, because I want to be very clear here. This is not about escaping motherhood at all. It's not about rejecting the calling that you're in. This is about stewardship. There are multiple faithful ways to provide for a family, multiple wise ways to steward creativity and time and effort. And lately, I've been asking, what does provision look like when it's built from wisdom instead of hustle? What does it look like? What does working look like when it doesn't compete with my family and the time I need to be with them? Instead, it supports it. And what does it mean to have margin in my life when it's intentional and not accidental? Like when I can just stumble into, I have a half hour free, So this is why I've been quietly working. I have on a digital guide behind the scenes. Not as a shiny promise and not as some kind of pressure-filled program, but as a wisdom framework. Something that helps you, homeschool moms, to think clearly, to discern wisely, and to understand how platforms actually work, and to build income without burning themselves out. Because clarity turns effort into direction. And wisdom helps us move from survival to intentional building. So this is not a guide about doing more. It's about doing something that lasts. Psalm 136 ends the same way that it begins. Give thanks to the God of heaven. His faithful love endures forever. So God's chesed doesn't run out. It's not obligated and it's not forced. And honestly, that really does it. Wow. We are daughters of that God. And as daughters of that God, we're invited to live and build from the same place. Not from pressure, not from fear, not from constant striving. Wisdom, discernment, and God's love that chooses to endure. So if this conversation has been stirring something in you, if you've been sensing that there might be another way to build provision with wisdom and peace, I would love to keep you in the loop. Drop the word wisdom in the comments, and I'm going to make sure you're the first to hear when the guide is ready.